I'd like to call this meeting of the Northwest Local School District Board of Education back to order. Suppose we should record the roll. Larry?
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mrs. Detzel?
Still here.
Mr. Harlow?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
I'm here.
Mr. Unger?
Here. And I'd ask that you'd all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next item is legislative update. Mr. Harlow?
I have a very short report. Legislature's been on break all summer. I do have news from the State Board of Education, and that is that our elected representative, Debbie Terhar, is not seeking a re-election term, and therefore it's an open seat with 3 candidates who have filed, including Pat Bruns, who worked in this district before. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Harlow. Our next item is a Butler Tech update. Mr. Detzel?
Dan, just a short one here. We haven't had a meeting since our last Board of Education meeting, but I just wanted to make sure everybody goes by Cincinnati Dayton Road and I-75 where it looks like we've got some construction, and I think I saw 2 walls up there. Was it yesterday? So the bioscience building is underway, and it should be open by the beginning of next school year.
Great, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, the all boards meeting, I believe it's
Coming up.
14. You guys will be getting an invite. They'll be sending them out here soon.
All right, thank you, Jim. Our next item is report from employee organizations. Is there anyone here who would like to speak from our certificated and licensed employees? Seeing no one. Our report from our classified employee organizations. And a report from school-related organizations. No one would like to speak. Community communications. I have received 2 yellow cards from audience members that would like to speak. And the first one will be Elaine Gauk would like to speak about curriculum.
See the mic there, talking with you up there? Will I hear it? Right here. Okay, I just have a question of Common Core about it before. I hear good points and bad points about it. I just need something so people out there can all know what it really is. We hear it's just math, but I've also heard that some of the books that get out in other states, our state here, is that some of they teach the kids, it's the opposite of what really happened, and that bothers me a lot. So I need to find out what Common Core is really all about, and that's what I'm going to find out. If you have some kind of program on that talks to some people on like 4th grade level, I think they say most people when they see things, they listen to us at the 4th grade level.
I'm sorry, did you say on social studies
Okay. I heard, I did record from I gave to you. They said something in there that's not what was all really about. It's the opposite. They were teaching the kids something different.
I can clarify a few things for you. First, the Common Core is just for language arts and math. There isn't Common Core for social studies. There are some language arts skills that you need in a social studies class, but it's specific skills on how to read a passage and glean certain information out of it, et cetera, for social studies. But there's no content for social studies. The state did approve new standards for all the other subjects, so the other 2 core subjects, social studies and science, but then also the fine arts, foreign language, et cetera. So we have all new standards for everything, but the Common Core is just math and language arts. There does seem to be a lot of misinformation out there about it. So we actually started implementing it last year. We're going to continue this year. For the first time in the spring, we'll be tested on the new standards.
Do you really understand all of it?
I'm sorry,
Do you understand it yourself? I talked to, he was your vice president, he was vice for me, Mark Farmer. He sent me information when I was on board, and he said he really didn't understand it either. And that made me feel too good. And that's why we need to find out what it's really all about so people understand it. A lot of parents out there, and they said it's going to affect the kids that start out with it at kindergarten grade first. The ones who are in school now won't bother them because they'll know what's going on. But this is the way they're teaching the kids. My impression was that the kids be like pigeonholed what kind of job they're going to get. And that's one thing I don't think is right. Kids should be able to pick their own job, what they want to do with their life. And we should not be guided by a school district, anybody else, or the state, or anybody telling our kids what they should and shouldn't do for a career. And it's happening in some schools.
There is a push for students when they graduate to be college or career ready. So they do want to, the state wants us to do a better job when a student graduates high school. They're either ready for college without taking remediation courses in college, or have some sort of skill or a certificate in a skill so they can have a high-paying job when they leave high school or go 2 years to some sort of vocational
These are
training.
kids are already in school now, but I'm talking about this is going to affect the kids who are starting out under this Common Core. That's starting as kindergarten on up. And they don't really know how it's going to affect the kids 12 years from now because they don't really know what it's all about.
Andrew, isn't this a state law that we have to do? It doesn't matter if we don't want to do it, we have to do it.
Correct. The
Yeah,
the
so
state
this is something that we
stipulates the
can't
standards.
control.
Correct.
We got money for it, right? We had to accept money from them. I know Virginia doesn't have it. And I think one other state doesn't have it.
We are a race to the top state, so let's go back a little bit here. So we're a race to the top state. So about 3 years ago, we joined Race to the Top, actually 4 years ago. So the state of Ohio decided to join the Race to the Top. I forget the exact amount that the state received. It was $200 to $300 million. The Northwest Local got just shy of $1 million to start implementing the new standards. So the Common Core was written by basically, it was a group of state superintendents and governors that got together to write these. It wasn't a federal program or a federal mandate. And then part of being in the Common Core, you also have to join one of two consortiums that write the tests. And I think that's what some of the concern is about in the public is the tests we're going to be taking. It's not so much the standards, because honestly the standards are increasing the rigor in terms of what we expect of our students. I think they're better than what the old standards were. Some of the concern is Ohio chose to join a consortium called PARC, the Partnership for the Assessment of Readiness of College and Careers, or you could have chosen another one called Smarter Balance. Ohio chose to stay in the Common Core, to join PARC, and so as a district, every district in Ohio, whether you're a Race to the Top district or not, we had the choice to be a Race to the Top district. But whether you're a Race to the Top district or not, you have to implement the Common Core this year, and everyone will be tested on them. And that's a state mandate. So we don't have a local decision on that piece of it. We can certainly try to get more communication out regarding the Common Core to our students and our families, and we'll do that this year. But we don't have local control on that piece of it regarding the state standards.
That's scary. Like somebody controlling what we do down here, and they shouldn't be involved. This is our district, not theirs. And we know what the kids need and what they don't need. What we do need is more parents to come to school board meetings here and get involved with their kids. Because when you have young kids in anger management classes in kindergarten, first grade, that's ridiculous. I want some schools to have that. That's because the parents don't care. And that's called back to the parents. But they need to get up here and find out what it's all about, and that's I'm involved in it. I mean, I've written nieces and nephews here. My kids are grown and gone, so the grandkids are in college. It's not going to affect them. But it can affect the kids coming up. Who's going to determine what happens to us? Aubrey doesn't go by the time you get up there, but that's okay. You know, I'm not older than you are, but the point I'm making is that I want the kids to have a choice in life, what they want to do, and what kind of job they want to get. I got 3 grandkids in college right now. The 4th one's not going to college because he doesn't want to. But he's still getting, this is Virginia, but he's getting a job. He's going to technical school and work on cars. That's what he wants to do. And I want the kids to have the right to do what they want to do, not what I want to tell them what to do. That makes sense? That's what I'm all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I have another request to speak, and the gentleman's first name is Matt, and I'm going to guess the last name is Tysort. Teetsort. And your topic is teacher-student relationships. I would ask that you leave any names out of that.
Oh,
It's more of a general discussion.
General.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
No, the first thing I want to speak about was, with this upcoming school year, in the past year in our district alone, we've had, I think it's now 3 instances involving inappropriate conduct between a teacher and a student. And I don't know that there's, I don't believe that there's anything that the district has done that's fostered this. It's just unfortunate as it is. It happened, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. I don't necessarily have an answer of how, what these three persons were thinking when this occurred. And yes, I agree. And how to get this point across to the remaining teachers in our district that this is unacceptable behavior and not to let it get to that point. And, I implore, the board and the administration to, reiterate that and reinforce that to the teachers. But also be wary of, knee-jerk reactions that have other unintended, side consequences. I.e., because I know there's school districts out there that, have very strict social media policies between teacher-student relationships. And it doesn't always have to be, just because a teacher, is, has a text to a student doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to an inappropriate relationship. Kind of what I'm referring to is I know that a lot of the coaches, for example, and because students, are using text message to communicate, so coaches use text messaging to communicate with their students about practices, games, when things change, what have you. So keep that in mind, that kind of thing could be affected, if you were to go all out, social media ban between teachers and students. Because I don't want to, because of the select very bad decisions of a few teachers in the past year, ruin the relationships that teachers can have with students that can be good without crossing that line and becoming inappropriate. And from what I've gathered, I've been perfectly, happy with the way it's been handled, internally, as far as being turned over to the authorities and everything. I know that, once it's turned over to the court systems, that's in the courts. You guys don't have control over punishment. And, if they resign, they resign. You can't fire somebody that quit. And I don't know what more you can do there as far as,
Well, thank you for
the prosecution. And then, along those lines, I'm looking forward to the upcoming school year, and hopefully we keep Northwest School District in a good light.
And there's a lot of very good things that are going on here, and I'd like you to know that anytime any one of those situations has come up, Dr. Jackson has immediately contacted the police and given full cooperation on any investigation on those issues. I just wanted to add.
You would hope to think that with the ones you mentioned and there's been jail time, you would think that would be a wake-up call for anybody else that even had crossed their mind, but...
You would think. You would think that'd be enough, but, and it's not just Northwest, because
it is not.
I don't get it.
We
It
don't-
boggles my mind.
Right.
And
Staff is getting in-service by, the staff is getting in-servicing from the attorneys on the general topics of what's appropriate and what's not. I haven't been to any of them. Didn't we just have one, Andrew?
Yeah, we have been working with our attorneys on a presentation and some professional development. We present it to the leadership team, the various administrators, and the teachers will receive the same training on either the 22nd or 25th of August when they return.
Okay.
And so that's one of our top priorities. Safety is our top priority, and so that falls under that realm. So we're taking it very serious. And then throughout the year, we're going to be working with the attorneys to look at our social media policy, which we have in place, to see if we can make some changes to it to prevent it from these things from happening. But we're monitoring it very closely and doing everything we can. And I do think a big deterrent is that they're prosecuted on it, and literally all three occasions since I've been superintendent, we've called the authority within the hours of it happening. I mean, almost immediately. So.
And this isn't, just to be clear though, too, this isn't the first year that we've had trainings that we go over. I mean, you would think it would be common sense, but it isn't, apparently. And, I mean, for as long as I've been on this board, I think that's always been a topic in service, going over it. We're just making sure we're going over it more and more and more.
Correct.
And I think going back to kind of what Elaine was alluding to is, parents being involved with their kids too, and knowing what they're doing. And I think, I've emailed Paulette and Andrew before about this, along with the social media, is that, kids are light years away, ahead of us as adults on social media, the way they're branching branching out into the other uses of it. And there's so many different ways to use it and use it to communicate. And, you know, I know friends of mine, they think they know what their kids are doing on social media. They think they know, but they don't. So I think, you know, talking with the kids, communicating with your kids, knowing what's going on in your children's lives, you know, is paramount in helping to head off some of this stuff. Knowing where your kids are, you know, all that. So, thank you for your time.
I appreciate you speaking. Thank you. I've received no other yellow cards, so we will move on to our next item, which is certificated licensed personnel action item. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, under certificated licensed personnel, we have 1 administrative resignation, 1 certificated resignation, 1 extra duty resignation, and 7 procedural extra duty resignation. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Larry, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is classified retirements and resignations.
Yes, under classified, we have 4 classified resignations, and we also have 4 classified substitute procedural resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a question that kind of ties in with this item and the last one. Andrew, the Inquirer ran a story a day or 2 ago about all the retirements because of the pension changes. Could you, I don't know if you have, or Tracy, right off the top of your head, how many retirements we had this year compared to last year? Or are we seeing that here too? I mean, drastic number increases?
I think we had an increase this year over last year. I can get exact numbers for you, but it's a combination of the new evaluation system and the retirement system. We've had an increase in retirements, yes.
It was about 30, just off the top of my head.
Seems about normal.
It's a little bit higher, and I think they're anticipating next year will also be another year where there'll be quite a few.
Do we have an idea of how many, how many positions are still needing to be filled?
We gave
teaching
an
or not?
we gave an update last,
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much filled at this point.
This is off the top of my head, but we have about 1 teaching position to fill and probably about 10 or 15 tutor positions to fill, some of which are at the parochial schools that we work with. And then it looks like probably about 20 classified, which those classified tend to, kind of roll on. People come and go and that type of thing, so.
And part of the increased resignations and retirements over the last few years is because there has been a change in state law in order to keep the pension system solvent. So some folks that have enough time and are getting out now because it improves their retirement fund, improves the income from their retirement versus staying around another year or 2, which would might cause them to receive less retirement increases.
I do think by the end of the week, because everything is in the interview process or final changes or orientations, by the end of the week, I think we should be pretty close, hopefully.
All right, thank you. So was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. And motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a resolution to declare a student impractical to transport.
And normally we do these earlier in the year, but there was a student that was left off from one of the non-public schools, so we went ahead and decided to add that to the list. So there's 1 student to declare impractical to transport. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the resolution to declare student impractical to transport.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a simple question again, Andrew. I have a friend who lives in the Lakota along with his daughter. They're Corning graduates. And his grandkids, his daughter's children, go to private school. And I said, apply through the Lakota school district to get the reimbursement. And they went to Lakota, and Lakota says, we don't have to do that. And I said, I think you do. But they didn't push it. And I was just wondering, so I could relay to him, I'll see him later this week, That is state law, isn't it?
Yes, whatever you provide for the public school students, you also have to provide for the non-public. So ours is, what, K-8 outside of miles.
They're first and third grade.
Yeah.
Well, it can also be if your school is more than 30 minutes away. I think that's,
Right.
it doesn't.
Yeah, it depends on how far the school is, or
Yeah,
also,
that's
that
another-
could be part of it. So
That's
it's-
another variable.
yeah,
Within 30, yeah. Maybe they didn't ask the right question.
Possibly.
Find out. They said no. We don't have to do that. I thought I was wrong. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a revised board policy. Dr. Jackson?
This was the board policy that was provided last meeting regarding the teacher evaluation and the required changes per state law. So superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve board policy GCNA, standard-based teacher evaluation, as presented on July 28, 2014.
So moved.
Second?
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a certificated licensed personnel item. Dr. Jackson?
Yes, we have seven initial appointments, one extended service contract, one change in status, 11 extra duty contracts, and a resolution to hire 7 non-licensed coaches. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. The next item is a classified personnel item.
Yes, we have 7 initial appointments, 4 classified substitutes, and 2 changes in status. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Larry? The motion carries 5-0. Our next item is a new high school course of study. Dr. Jackson?
These were the 4 courses presented last meeting regarding special education at the high school to help support our special education students. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the new courses of study as presented at the July 28th board meeting.
So moved.
Second?
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. Our next item are 2 revised board policies.
Yes, I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Pauletta Crawley. I asked her to convene a group over the summer to look at our code of conduct and the possibility of breaking into tiers to better explain the process for our students and parents.
Yeah. Yes, we had a very eventful year this past year with discipline. Some unusual situations occurred, and Dr. Jackson did recommend that we put a discipline team together, which we did. So we had 4 parents who I don't see in the audience tonight, but it was Latrissa Russell, Gina Henry, Sherry Allen, and Glenna Carter, as well as representatives from each of our secondary schools. Dr. Crystalline Turney and Mrs. Gail Davis, Mr. Casey Shears, Mrs. Maureen Ruther, Mrs. Mary Barnaclough, and Mr. Dustin Garing, and then Mr. Yater and myself served on that team. So we met 3 times, the first being a lively conversation regarding the types of consequences that we dole out to students who break our code of conduct. And no new disciplinary action was added to the list, although as the 5 secondary school administrators talked with each other, some utilized parts of our discipline more than others as far as the discipline, and specifically demerits and Saturday school. So we did re-implement Saturday school, although it might be on a Thursday afternoon and not a Saturday, because kids tend to skate on a Thursday versus a Saturday. And the demerits, I think, they just needed some reassurance on how that system worked one more time at the high schools, because the middle schools have that down pat. And so that's another opportunity to show how our plan is progressive in nature, and yet it gives students an opportunity to regain some of the trust that they may have lost for misbehaving. A demerit stays on the student's discipline card for 4 months. So a student who gets in trouble in early September for minor disrespect to another student or wearing inappropriate clothing to school, they may earn a demerit. And so the first part of January, after 4 months, that demerit comes off. But they do accumulate, and when we reach number 5, it's a day out of school suspension. And phone calls are going home to parents throughout as well. So it was an interesting conversation, and one that helped us to be much more consistent across the district. Within our own buildings, firm, fair, and consistent in each one of them. But now we believe we have laid the groundwork so that all of our buildings are following the same routine. So from that discussion came a discussion about, well, what kind of offenses would it be for a demerit or a warning? And what kind for an after-school detention or an in-school suspension, and so on. So we developed 4 tiers, and they become much more progressive as you get to number 4. Number 4 is typically weapons, drugs, alcohol, things that are going to be an automatic 10-day suspension. There was a bit of conversation regarding fighting at our middle school level. The first fight is 3 days out, the second fight is 5 days out, the third fight is 10 days out. They're middle school, they're learning from their mistakes, hopefully they're coming back into school. At the secondary level, though, they felt that 10 days out of school suspension is what you get with the first fight, and the administrators felt that was a very strong deterrent for 99% of the kids to do the right thing. And with 2,000 students in one school and 1,000 in the other school, you're bound to have a student or two who gets into a scuffle. So I found it amazing that our parents, we asked for parents whose children did get into some trouble, and they wanted the rules to be stricter than we wanted them to be, because they want to make sure that their kids are safe in school, and they took responsibility for their kids' actions when they did get in trouble, and hopefully they learned from that experience. So we set up our 4 tiers. Then our next 2 meetings, we actually went through our code of conduct and developed a 100, 200, 300, 400 system for each of the tiers and where the infractions of those codes would fall. We did not add any additional codes, and we really didn't take away. We combined a couple of codes and we separated a couple of codes. One that I can remember off the top of my head is we had sexual acts along with inappropriate touching and some other issues where, a middle school kid might hit somebody on the bottom would be much different than flashing someone or being physically involved with someone. So we did separate those out into 2 different tiers. And again, that was a team consensus and it worked very well. So I sent to you electronically the policy. And I do want you to know that very often when referrals come to the office, we expect teachers to do their own classroom management first. Kids are falling asleep in class, not following directions, whatever it might be, and they all do have their classroom management plans in place. But you will have an occasional student that doesn't listen to the redirect and redirect and redirect, and that's when that student is sent to the office. So we also want you to know that administrators do have the authority to skip a level of discipline. If the child has been chronic in their behavior and has come to the office several times, then they may skip a level and go to the next point on the discipline plan. But most often, when referrals come to the office at level 1 and 2, it's not just one code of conduct that's broken. If they're being disrespectful, they're probably not following directions. They may cause a disruption in the classroom. So you may get 2 or 3 infractions on one referral, and that may cause an administrator to jump a level as well. So that's where we are there. In the copy that I sent you, the general guidelines for dress code, meaning no hats in the building, no jackets in the building, things like that, no specific ear piercing and hair colors are addressed. Those pertain to every student. And then each one of our schools in their student handbook has their specific dress code policy. So our 2 schools with uniforms have a very distinct dress code policy, which is JFCB, I believe. And then the rest of the schools have JFCA, which is kind of the generic policy, not supposed to be showing skin, no spaghetti straps, all of those types of things. So I just wanted you to make clear that those are addressed in their student handbooks and they're not necessarily spelled out in the information that I gave to you. Any questions?
Just to clarify a couple things before we, there is on the one attachment that has the code of conduct under level 105, or level 1, item 105 is the dress code, and there is some confusion there. So we will clean that up and get that uploaded again for the next meeting when we ask for approval on that piece of it. I do want to thank Pauletta and the committee on this work. The old system, and I think it created some confusion, was that basically your code of conduct ranged from chewing gum to assaulting a teacher or whatever. And the punishments went from a demerit all the way to a 10-day out-of-school suspension with expulsion. This gives us a better idea of what the level should be. I think it will help deter behavior because it will give our students and parents a better idea of the potential consequence for the various violations. It will also allow us to be consistent between buildings and within a building regarding this, that we want to try to uniform in terms of how we're doing this. So we want to try to come together on that piece of it. So this is a good step for that. The next thing that we'll be doing internally is just coming up with a process for tracking this data and putting in the system, et cetera. But I think it's a great start to doing a better job of deterring some of this behavior for our students.
Andrew, I do have a question. I know that there was a problem 2 years ago at Colerain with the use of cell phones and that. And last year we kind of took care of that problem. Is that something that is going to continue?
Yeah, that is still a violation of the code of conduct,
Okay.
using those.
And kids are not allowed to use their cell phones
During the school day.
during
the school day, correct.
At the middle school level, they have to be put away before they actually walk into the building. There's no supervision in the building until about 15 minutes before the first bell rings. That's when the door is open, they all come in. At the high school, the doors open a bit earlier. So they are permitted to walk in with them and sit in the cafeteria, listen to their music if that's what they're doing. But once the tardy bell rings for class, all electronic devices have to be put away.
What happens, say I got my cell phone out and it's second bell and I'm sitting here, what is the,
It is confiscated by the teacher or staff member, taken to the office and returned only to a parent. And I have been meeting with all of the secondary schools to kind of roll this out with them. And they have all agreed at this point that a demerit is probably going to be
And all the-
attached to that as well.
all the teachers are on board with this?
Well, they will address their teachers at in-service day on all of this. So, yes, that's being addressed. But I did want to mention that handbooks have already been published, so we are creating an addendum for each level that will go home with another sign-off sheet for parents to sign off if they have seen the addendum with the changes and the tiered discipline and the consequences.
And just to add to that a little bit, it used to be they had to leave it in their locker. And then last year we changed it, they could have it on their person. And that was for a safety issue that we have found out that when something happens at a school, it's nice that you have several points of contact where students can get a hold of someone if they need to. So that was part of the reason for that. The other piece at the high schools is you have before school, after school practices. So at what point are they at practice, listening to their iPhone, iPod thing, and what point are they in school? So we had to just make some sort of demarc point where this is it. So at this point, it's okay, but at this point, it's not, and that's what we're trying to establish. And same thing after school. You know, you have a lot of kids sticking around after school. You have to be able to call their parents if they need a ride home, et cetera. So we're trying to be reasonable with that, but at the same time, have some expectations during the school day.
We were, I'm losing my voice. We were able to hear the superintendent and principal of Chardon High School right after the incident happened there. And that's when we changed our policy to allow the students to carry them. And then the situation at LaSalle occurred. And we found that, they found that students who had their cell phones, they were told, get them out, call your parents, tell them you're okay. And here's where we're going. And here's where they can pick you up. And then give your phone to a friend if they don't have one so they can call, because there is nothing like hearing your child's voice firsthand versus everybody's fine. So that is part of the reason for the safety issues there with that. And I did just want to comment, if I could, regarding the inappropriate behavior. All 5 of our secondary buildings are mandated to hold coaches' meetings with their coaches. And I did attend each one of those meetings, and we addressed inappropriate action by coaches as well, because they're not all on staff, but some of the staff members are going to hear it 2, 3, and 4 times before school even starts. So I would encourage you, if you have not already, we have encouraged the coaches to add parents' emails or text numbers to the list so that when they send something out to the students, you get it also and you know exactly what it's saying. And if they haven't done that, then I would volunteer that information to them so that you're hearing the same information that your child is hearing. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauletta. And I guess if anyone wants to see this information, if you log on to our district website and go to the August 11th board meeting, it'll be there for you to read. Tonight was just an item for information that we will act on in 2 weeks. Did you have something else, Dr. Jackson?
No, just before I turn it back over to you, I do want to say that Todd wasn't able to be here today because of his father's funeral today. He was going to make a presentation on the projects, the construction projects. They're going very well. It is going to go a few days into the school, which we knew, but on the August 25th meeting, I'll be sure he has a full report for the board regarding our construction projects.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's so important how you included parents. I think you get so much more of a buy-in when there's parents' input too. So I think that's great. And the fact that they wanted it even stricter is pretty awesome.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is community comments and questions. If there's anyone in the audience that has a question specific to anything that was discussed this evening, please approach the podium.
This is related to a past school board meeting. I have a statement and I want to ask a question and I'll go to Mr. Jackson. Mr. Unger and the majority of the board have no children in the district, and yet the majority of the board was passionate about legal aid. They were legal counseling. They were passionate about architects. And I was just wondering from Mr. Jackson, actually no one on the board right presently has anybody, any kids in the district. I wanted to ask Mr. Jackson why it was important, why was it so different that I was passionate about things I'm concerned about, safety of the kids, or passionate about concern of kids. You know, I've coached in this district for 12 years, and I coached wrestling, tennis, cross country, and I coached with a passion. I had, up to this year, I had the #1 wrestler ever in the school district, both Colerain or Northwest. So my concern is and it wasn't my son or my daughter. So my concern is, why do I have to have blood in the game to be concerned about the school district?
I think you're referring to my comments at a prior meeting where Mr. Heather brought up that you discussed the uniforms at Northwest. And I'll repeat the comments, and I stand by them, is that you're the only person, since I've been superintendent, you're the only person that's come regarding uniforms. And my question is, I don't know why the board would react when they've not heard from any parents. And those are the comments I made. You know, they're online, you can listen to them.
No, I actually watched it. You said, quote unquote, I don't know why Mr. Carpenter's passionate about it because he has no children in the district. That's what you said.
Correct.
That's a little different than, I mean, there is concerns, and there's no secret that parents come to me and bring their issues to it, mostly minority parents, and I come here and represent because most of them are kind of afraid to come to the district, come to the school board meetings because of retaliation. So it's no secret that happens to me.
No one should ever be afraid to. All 5 of us have always welcomed people to get up and speak, so no one should have any fear of speaking before this board. Some of the comments are great, some of them aren't, but we have always welcomed everyone to speak, and this board has always given everyone time to speak. So there should be no
calls
fear.
and our emails are online, and I will meet with anyone who has asked me to. I have met with several parents who are very concerned about some of the decisions that we made, and they were, I think, productive meetings, and so, we're open.
I think you do let people come up and talk, but I also have seen some retaliation against some parents over on issues.
Please let a board member know that, because if that exists, we want to know that. If you have seen that and haven't reported it, then please report it.
Retaliation by a board member?
Not a board
Okay.
member.
I was
Within
going
the
to say, 'cause I've never
school.
retaliated against anybody, whatever their opinion is.
Not-
Please, Dexter, I would ask if that exists, that I would ask that you please approach whichever one of the five of us you're comfortable with and report that, because if you don't report it, we have no way of knowing.
The board members are not active in school. I'm talking about the particular schools that they may have complaints about, maybe a principal about whatever, and there has been some retaliation. And I specifically brought you information in reference to a PTA situation. I actually handed it directly to you in this hallway, and that person received a ton of retaliation. Some brought on by their own, but still, it was pretty aggressive to me, and I hear that all the time. And that's the reason I come, because people are afraid. It's not by chance. I mean, you got my wife out there and a friend of ours, and who've been in the system. They come because I'm comfortable enough coming, I'm brave enough to come, as some people would say. But I mean, when you look out here, there's not a reflection, a true reflection of the district here. I mean, we have your comrades and maybe sometimes your comrades, but we don't see a true reflection of everybody in the district, and that's not by chance. So
Dexter, we can't control who comes to the meetings.
Yes, sir. But what I'm saying to you, sir, I'm being honest with you enough to say to you is this: they're concerned about retaliation. They are, and whether you say it doesn't happen and it does happen, they're not here, and that's the reason they filter it to me, and I try to filter to you after I learn how the system works. And that, again, my question is, well, why do I have to have blood in the game to be concerned? I mean, you didn't answer my question.
Well, we're all very passionate
I'm
about.
talking to Mr. Jackson.
We're all very passionate about this.
I know you've been passionate about everything you wanted to put in, whether it's a legal firm or architects or whatever. And you're allowed to be passionate about it. Your kid goes to LaSalle. You don't
My
have a
children
bunch
are both in college now.
Good job.
They both attend public universities.
The point I'm making is, you were passionate about all those things all the times you ran, and you didn't have any blood in the line. I was wondering why he said that I had, why it was such a curiosity, why I was concerned. I'm asking you.
I feel like I've answered the question. Thank you.
Dexter, I feel like I need to say something as well. And I can't remember exactly what I said or didn't say, but I will say this. When I was trying to talk with Chris, I believe I probably said too, as far as with uniforms, Chris, and I think this is fair to say, that is his passion and that's kind of his agenda. And I've made the comment to Chris too, Chris, you can't just say, if it's all one way or another way, you've got to ask all the parents. And the only parent that is coming up is Dexter. Not dismissing what your view is, but you can't just automatically say, okay, everybody at Northwest, you're no longer in uniforms, or Colerain, everybody, now you're going to wear uniforms. We need to hear input from all the parents. And that's what, when I was trying to get through to Chris, is I want to make sure, because it's very apparent, I'm not the majority of this board, that no decisions made just because one or two or three people on the board, that's their agenda, and they're not going to take input from everyone. So that's the point I was making.
Dexter, since that sort of revolves around what I was saying, I think the point, and I was only speaking for myself, we would have the public input, but also I agree with you fully. And as far as my personal, if we were voting on this tonight, and we've had the hearings and got the input, if we voted not to do it for Colerain, then I think we have to examine why we would continue it at Northwest.
And I appreciate that, because when I watched it on tape, I really appreciate that you actually, I was surprised it didn't come from Mr. Jackson, who I thought I had a better rapport with, but you did mention the fact that Mr. Carpenter's concern was the fairness of it. You know, you have it on one side of the district, other. By the way, I talked to some teachers who wouldn't come here and say this, but when we have kids come from Colerain over to the Northwest side, it does create some confusion because they're out of uniform. And when our kids go over to the Colerain, they feel different. You know, the whole object, the speech I made about the uniforms was that all kids were on an equal playing ground when they walk in and on the way they looked. In fact, when I made the speech and I helped bring in the uniforms, again, I'm still for the uniform. I'm just for it to be fair. But when I made the speech, I used the example that I went to Deer Park High School. Most of the kids at that time, it's more blue collar now, but it was upper middle class, and financially my family wasn't on that game. Plus, I was one of the 5 minorities in the whole building. So now I walk in there and I don't even have appropriate clothes on, and my pigmentation was playing a game against me. So now I felt it was important that if everybody was in uniform, then they would all walk in there and get a chance. And then if they wanted to be a bigger person in the school, it'd be through sports, their grades, et cetera, et cetera. And I still believe that, okay? But when you have kids, when our kids from Northwest come over to Coleraine side and they're in uniforms, they stand out, and it does open up the doors for some ridicule. And I just don't understand why that looks so, having it fair throughout the district, why is that such a big deal? Why is it everybody going, why does he want that? Why is he concerned about it? I just don't see, that seems logical to me.
I think there's a lot of things that need to be a level playing field, but I will tell you, I have people that have kids at Northwest. They like the uniforms. They don't care what any other school's doing. They're thankful there's uniforms. And then you have some that don't. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. I don't have a passion one way or another about uniforms. I just want to make sure that it's done in the right way. It's not 1 or 2 board members making a decision because that's their personal belief, and it's a decision's made without getting input from all sides. That's all I'm saying. And I would hope to think too that there is a difference between philosophically not agreeing pretty much on anything, and then maybe if you and I don't disagree on one thing, that doesn't mean that I don't respect the fact that you come here and that you donate your time as a coach and that you're here. I mean, I think it's great that you come to the meetings. But if we agree or disagree with a blanket statement of how the uniform process is going to be, I mean, I would hope to think that doesn't mean I don't think that you're a good person and that you're a valuable part of this community. So, I mean, that's
I
just
didn't
me.
think that. I just, you know.
And I mean, I think, you know, trying to be supportive here, my thing is, I just want input from everyone. That's it.
I mean, if there's parents out there at Northwest that do not like the uniform, they need to come and tell us, or email us, write us a letter if they don't want to come to the board meeting, call us up. You know, I mean, Dr. Jackson said, you're the only person that has come and ever contacted me. I've been on the board 6 years. Nobody's ever contacted me about the uniform issue at Northwest, saying they like her or they don't like. I take it back. I got one from a lady at Northwest. Other than that, you're the only one that ever comes
I'd also, I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
to question it. So I don't know, is there 10 people at Northwest that they don't like it? Is there 100? Is there 500? I don't know.
And I will say,
I just want, if there's 500 parents, bring them in. Let's hear from them. I want to know their opinion.
I don't think Dexter's trying to say people like him or dislike him. I think Dexter's, the thing he's trying to get across, and I'm not sure the board's hearing him,
it should
is
be
a
all
fairness.
one way or the other.
It's all one way or the other. And I have had, Dexter, I can't say it's been 30, but 4 or 5 people email me in support for Ford. I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't. That's why we'll have the hearings. But I think it comes down to the simple fairness factor. And that's where we will try to do the right thing. And but again, we have a long process. We got to give 6 months notification. I'm hoping maybe this fall we can do that, and then you know.
Now, I do hear a lot more on the Northwest side, and maybe it's the circle. I mean, I guess I'm in the negative circle that don't really like the uniforms. But also, my main thing was my personal thing was more the fairness. Why not, you know, we're struggling with a lot of things in reference to the district and image, and you know nobody I bounce it off of in the schools that I have contact with. It looks illogical. You have 2 buildings out of 12 operating buildings. I may be off by one, and then those 2 buildings they're in uniforms, and they ironically are the 2 buildings that have the majority of the minorities in it. So it looks, I mean, if you're trying.
And I guess I would say that, I would agree with you if that came from this office, and this office or this board is the one who just woke up one day and said, Northwest High School is going to have uniforms. Now Pleasant Middle is going to have uniforms. But that isn't the way it went. It was parents from Northwest High School that came to the board, and what was it, a couple years process of wanting uniforms. And there were some that didn't, and the majority did, and that's how it went into effect. So that's my thing too. And I get the fairness thing because I still struggle that there's still some classes, and I understand it's a numbers game. We have 2,000 kids in one school and 1,000 in another, and maybe you only have 2 kids that sign up for a class here, and you have 30 kids sign up here, so is an offer here. Personally, I have more problem with that. It's not fair for those 2 kids. What can we do about that? Than the fact with the uniforms, all I'm saying is if Northwest decides, or however this shakes out, and it comes out that the majority of the parents, based on board policy at Colerain, say don't want uniforms, I don't want to just carte blanche say, okay, Northwest, we're getting rid of uniforms, until we ask, because I don't know, how do we know that the majority of the parents, when it push comes to shove, that are supportive of uniforms, are going to say, well, I don't want to get rid of them. You know, yeah, I don't totally agree that Colerain doesn't have them, but when push comes to shove, I don't want you to get rid of uniforms. That's all I'm saying. We need to see. Because sometimes, I mean, and I don't know, it might work out that way, it might not. But I'd be willing to bet there's probably a lot of parents at Northwest that like uniforms that don't want to see it end no matter what. And that's all I want is input from all sides. I don't think the 5 of us should take it personally how we feel about something and implement anything.
And one other comment, Dexter, is you've mentioned the architect. Yes, we are currently undergoing an evaluation of a master plan, and I don't think any of us knows exactly how that's going to shake out, and there might be some reconfiguration of the building. So from my own point of view, I just as soon let the situation ride until we decide what buildings are going to exist in a year or 2, because I wouldn't want to go through a big process and then find out that
We're all in one building or something.
yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I know the other board members have spoken, so.
And just in fairness, there's been 3 stories of how the uniforms got in. Now, I was told a story about a disgruntled PTA member. Mr. Heather had a different, he said it was because we had gangs and stuff. I played the tape, that's what he said. And then you interceded and said, no, that's not right, it was parent driven. Part of yours is part of mine. I was told by a PTA member who set my car while I was at tennis practice, said, hey, they used you because this particular PTA meeting said there was people at the PTA meeting, which makes some of your statement true, that believed that we should go to uniforms in Northwest to keep certain students from coming from Mount Healthy and Winton Woods to block them out. So there's 3 different stories why. My main thing is this, you know, I come try to help the people out who have concerns. I don't, you know, if it starts being a stipulation, I have to have blood. And by the way, I actually do have a member still left in the school district, but because I am concerned about retaliation, I'm not. That's why I haven't shared it, to be honest with you. So, actually, that was a wrong statement about Mr. Jackson. So, but the point is that, you know, whatever you guys decide to do about the uniforms, I'm actually cool with. I just wanted you to know, as I was in January, that I felt that true fairness, and Mr. Jackson, when he met with me many times, we're worried about our image and how people look, how minorities look at our district, how other people look at our district. And out of fairness, that it looks a little suspicious. I'm sorry. I mean, it is what it is. It looks suspicious.
I'm not sure who else was on the board at the time. I just remember as a board member being at meetings
Mr. Heather was and you were.
At Northwest High School, and when parents got up and spoke passionately, both sides, and students, both sides, and it seemed like it was over a year that dialogue was going on, and then it was...
I was part of it.
Right, right. So, I mean,
Mr.
I can
Gladfelder,
only
he
go
asked
by
me to
what was
speak,
presented.
and I spoke. And I still believe, I truly do believe in it. Trust, I hated the way my daughter went to Walnut Hills. I hated the way she dressed. But, you know, but my thing is that, and she was in Catholic school for a while, and I liked her. She was in the cute little Catholic dresses, and she looked cool. I really did like it. I still do believe in the uniform. The same reason I gave the speech, I still do believe in it. I just think it should be fair throughout the district if you still think it has valuability to the learning process.
Thank you, Dexter.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Was there anyone else that had any questions or comments about the things we've discussed this evening? Hearing none, we will move on to our next item, which is executive session. I would ask that the board entertain a motion to move into executive session to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, and to conference with an attorney concerning disputes that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Dan, is there going to be any, just for the benefit of the audience members, any action after the executive session?
It is listed as an action item, so we could come back and take action after our executive session. You're welcome to hang around. I can't predict how long we will be in session. So was there any other discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. We will adjourn to executive session. Thank you.
There was a phone found out in the parking lot and a little girl.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Northwest Local School District Board of Education back to order. Larry, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Tatzel?
Here.
Mrs. Tatzel?
Here.
Mr. Harlow?
Here.
Mr. Heaton?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here. Our next agenda item is
Okay, hold on.
that's our vote to go to executive session.
Somehow you...
So if I go to next item with Cruz on, it should bring up superintendent's evaluation.
Okay. That's what I wasn't getting, so.
Okay, all board members have received a copy of the superintendent's evaluation. I would ask for a motion to approve it as written.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote.
Chris, are you in?
I'm in.
I'm not.
You just showed up as red on mine. And Pam's, Pam's out now. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, she showed up
Do you have it open right there with that little red thing?
This?
No,
What
is
that'll
that?
be reader.
No.
Okay.
No, I had,
She's got a lot of
I was
that.
checking the
That's fine.
email, and then when I clicked out of that, it clicked out of everything. Be quiet. Good thing Graders is on somewhere else.
Okay. Looks like everybody's...
Motion carries 5-0.
I was just holding you in suspense there, Andrew.
Our next item is the superintendent's contract. Let me go to, so you've sent that to me as an email,
Yes.
and I will read it so that there's clarity about what has changed. That's not the, I don't want the one that says 2017 on it. So I'm going to go back to inbox. Well, you still have the document titled as 2014 to 2017.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
Go ahead and, do you want to save it?
The
Okay,
title of it doesn't, I mean, that's just the file name, the dates are in it.
Okay.
The current term of April
Right.
1, 2013 to July 31st, 2016.
I checked it, Dan. It's good.
okay. I will read the items that have changed from what is existing. Item 1 remains the same, 2 remains the same, 3 remains the same, 4. Item 4, compensation. Effective August 1st, 2014, the superintendent shall receive an annual salary of $140,600 to be paid in equal installments established by board policy for all administrative employees. That is the line that has changed. So that is one change.
And Dan, maybe just for the information, what the prior salary had been 135, so people have a baseline to compare it. So we're talking $5,600 increase.
Okay. So the second change would, I guess, would be under, should it be under other compensation where we talk, because the superintendent has not had a cell phone or a data plan allowance during his time here, and it's the consensus of the board, I believe, that is something that the district should pay for, is a cell phone, because Lord knows he takes a call or two on it, maybe once a week. And the board should be paying for the cell phone, so I would guess, would we add that to the other compensation item, or is there an expense item on here? Or where did you add that at?
This was through the attorney. It's the very last line of other compensation as the $1,200 annual stipend.
Okay, so to read that, the only change in item 5, other compensation, the board shall provide a $1,200 annual stipend for the use of the superintendent's personal cell phone and home broadband access for, to be used, home broadband access for official district use. The stipend shall be paid in $50 increments on each payroll. That's the change there. So the other change was under vacation. Dr. Jackson's, to summarize, he's going from 20 to 25 days. The superintendent shall be granted 25 days of vacation with pay each year this contract is in effect. The other change on there is up to 10 days of vacation may be turned in annually for compensation. So the correct summary of that would be the Dr. Jackson gets 25 days of vacation. He may turn in up to 10 days to turn in to be compensated at the superintendent's pay rate. And that would be the change to the vacation item. And those were the...
One other item, just to be clear, that the life insurance is 2 times my annual salary, so that was changed to $281,200 as well, instead of the $270,000.
Okay, that is correct. So those would be the 4 changes to the contract, and I would take a motion if anyone wants to motion to approve those changes to the contract, effective August 1st.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. And I'm going to need to, I guess if I close this
Just be careful because we might do.
and close that and open this, then I can go ahead and vote.
Yep.
Okay. And the motion to amend the superintendent's contract effective August 1st, 2014 carries 5-0. So our next item is board member comments. Jim?
I don't have any, Dan.
Michael?
I would just like to extend my personal sympathies to our Director of Business Operations, Todd Bowling, on the passing of his father.
Pam?
I just want to, I'll echo that what Michael just said to the entire Bowling family, and just want to thank Andrew for his continued support and always putting the needs of the students first in this district, and we certainly are glad that you're still here with us.
Dr. Heater?
Dan, I can concur and echo what Pam and Michael said, with regards to Todd's father, and also with Andrew.
And I would also like to extend my sympathy to the Bowling family. Todd is a very good man, going through a difficult time with his family, with the passing of his father. And Andrew, we are looking forward to having you here, and we're glad you're here. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Larry, please call for a vote. The motion carries 5-0. This meeting is adjourned.
Chris, how do you want us to shut this down? Do you want us to do anything?
I go to end meeting.